Stone is very rarely found where it is wanted for use. The builders of the mysterious megalithic circles of Stonehenge brought many of their vast stones all the way from Pembrokeshire to Salisbury Plain. The Romans often carried their facing stone far from the quarries, especially when they were building their remarkable roads all over our island. Stone, often hauled for long distances, has conditioned the scale of many of the buildings of the past, particularly castles and cathedrals. On the other hand, modest village churches had to use local stone to keep the costs down. Preeminent architects like Wren or Inigo Jones chose their stone as carefully as an artist chooses his colours. The architects of the graceful buildings of Georgian Bath were lucky. They got their stone from a quarry nearby. And the confident Victorians, convinced that progress was their birthright, built with the stone they wanted, wherever it had to come from. In the 20th century, we have done the same, and of necessity, we still do. Stone is the oldest tangible thing in the world. Its age is reckoned in hundreds of millions of years. The very names of geological time, Cambrian, Carboniferous, Triassic, Jurassic, evoke the ages of dinosaurs, the breaking up of continents, the spreading of ocean floors, and enormous volcanic activity on the Earth's crust. Stone has always been in demand for building, and still is. In 50 years, the demand for building materials is 10 times as big as it was. This shows the areas of greatest population, the largest, of course, being London in the southeast. In the Thames Basin, these sand and gravel pits, which could once supply the needs of Greater London and the home counties, are being worked out. Reserves have been built over, and our growing awareness of the need to look after our environment means that agricultural land and areas of natural beauty are protected. Result, the demand for these aggregates in this area greatly exceeds the local supply. Much of the alternative is limestone. Coloured here in light green is the large area where much of it comes from. The small pink area further north is the granite quarrying in Leicestershire. The London area is not alone with its problem. This is Merseyside and Greater Manchester, the Southampton area and Birmingham with the West Midland towns. Here are the quarry railheads. Yellow indicates the railway lines carrying sand and gravel. Pink shows the movement of granite. Light green, limestone. The core of the long-term strategy for rail freight is the movement of bulk loads, heavy and regular. Electronic equipment monitors and controls the size of the aggregate being crushed, often for a specific purpose and to an exact size. It also controls the flow of the aggregate on the conveyor belts to the railhead. The quarrying industry must be flexible enough to match the supply of aggregate from the rock face to the demands of the customer. Conveyor belts to quarry railhead and rail freight to distant distribution depot, this suits the industry's long-distance transport needs. The rail system, fed by conveyors, is fully geared to link the supply to the demand, and it does so with the least intrusion into the environment. This one-time railway bridge now conceals a conveyor. This man at the quarry railhead is tapping out information, putting into the machine the facts and figures which control the filling of the rail wagons from the hopper above. He also keys in the flow control of the aggregate from the quarry crushers, which feed that hopper. Printout records keep the quarry accounting up to date. There is another source of aggregate, sea-dredged gravel. This suction dredger brings 3,000 tons a day from the North Sea onto the Thames estuary. The gravel goes by conveyor to the railhead, where it is cleaned and processed. And so, off to London, where, as we saw earlier, the supply from the gravel pits is diminishing. Gravel, an ingredient in concrete making, speeds through to where it is needed without adding to road congestion or to environmental pollution. Up to half the cost of a rail freight terminal, its equipment, including dust suppression, and the company wagons, can be claimed from the government if the movement of aggregate is kept from harming the environment by using rail transport. In 10 years, the annual volume of aggregates moved by rail has grown from 2 to 10 million tons. This volume could double in the next 10 years. Soon we shall have trains hauling up to 3,000 tons per journey. British Rail's objective is to run a competitive, efficient and profitable freight service at firm prices on an extended contractual agreement. This provides a basis of confidence for the industry's heavy investment. Once the aggregate carrying company train leaves the quarry and joins the main line, it fits into an ordinary timetable, just like the crack intercity expresses. By providing this service, rail freight and their customers are profiting by that increasingly rare commodity, value for money. A government grant has helped to develop a secluded distribution terminal near Radlett on the edge of Greater London. The wagons discharge at a lower level still. All this work is an example of cooperation, between British Rail, the quarry companies and the local authorities. Social progress is combined with economic growth, civic responsibility and good business. After the pollution-free journey by rail, depots for getting the material to the building site are as vital as the material itself. Built on what was once an old branch line, and just visible beyond this passenger station, is the terminal at Botley near Southampton. A train can discharge 1,000 tons of crushed rock under cover. Here the market can support a terminal where, along soundproofed rubber rollers, enclosed conveyors over the railway lines can find the dust on the journey to the coating plant. Here it is dried and coated with bitumen. It emerges as a finished product ready for the journey to the local customer. Aggregates for building materials, including pre-mixed concrete, are as essential to our civilized society as food and clothes. We need to build for two main reasons. To satisfy social demands, a new leisure centre, for example, a shopping complex, homes or new hospitals. We also build to keep the country running. We need new roads and many forms of industrial development. And what about these great boulders which were blasted from the rock face? They are going to the Thames Barrier. The double piers between which the protecting gates of the tidal barrier are supported could cause the current of tidal water between them to erode the riverbed. These huge stones are being lowered to prevent this erosion. Samuel Pepys in 1663 wrote, "There was last night the greatest tide that was ever remembered on this river. All Whitehall was drowned. Today the risk is even greater. London sinks on its clay bed. Southeast England tilts on the continental shelf. Tides are higher at London Bridge than ever before." The barrier scheme is our only way to prevent a further flooding. If building materials are not to be found where they are needed, they must obviously be taken there. This was true in the mysterious past, before recorded history, and it is true today. If we are to keep our landscapes clean and our townscapes tidy, skills in quarrying and transport must be matched by skilled siting of depots for local distribution. For in a heavily committed industrialized economy, we must reconcile our social needs with good business sense.